Welcome to Weenie Trades. I'm Greg, and I'm going to analyze some ETFs and stocks for you guys. And I'm going to be showing where I'm positioned for this market. So first up we got is SPY, SPY, and the SPY, oh boy, it's going to get interesting this upcoming week. We had a very volatile last week, but really, we were actually in a pretty tight trading range last week. So we had a nice good sell-off into key support, did 420, 420.69, there it is. And you saw me buying the dip aggressively on Monday. And we got this sideways trading pattern. Even on Friday, I was saying, hey, I'm looking to buy the dip on the SPY at this 428.50 area. And boy, did the SPY take off from that level. So where is SPY going to be headed moving forward? Well, let me just show you what my thoughts are based off my positions. So right over here, I've got a ton of spreads going on over here. As you can see, I've got, +3 over here. So this is a +3. I've got a -3 on the 436. I got a -1 over here and a +1 over here. So I have exactly as many calls, long calls, as I do short calls. And what's super cool about this is the P&L open is good, so I'm swinging it with some momentum in my favor. But what's cool about this is I make plus $500 if SPY closes above this, 438 area. But what's really cool is I actually make plus 700 if SPY sells off even just a little bit and comes back into this 436 area. So it's super cool because it's like, well, now if the SPY, I have the wind on my back, and if the SPY is going to sell off just a little bit, I actually get to make a little bit more money. If it could push us higher, great, I still make money. So what am I looking for on the overall S&P moving forward? It's really important to get the S&P right, because if you can get the S&P right, you can get most stocks in the market correct. And what am I looking for? Well, I think SPY can at least test this 446.70 area. Call it about 447. So 447 is going to be my resistance one. I am expecting a small push higher earlier in the week. Otherwise, if we are selling off, look for a potential little dip buy at that 338. If we are underneath 338, we could be coming back into the range and selling off further. But I really do think that we'll probably be hitting that 447 first. And that's going to be R1 to take some profits. And if we start to really extend and start getting into, 449 to 450, that's where I'm going to be starting to build bear call credit spreads. Again, on the front side of the move, I like to do bear call credit spreads because I get paid extra money for my time. If you don't know that option strategy, ask me about it. I love trading these options over here at Weenie Trades Live. But if we push into this 453, that's the stone cold short. That's where I'm going to be grabbing puts for quite a bit of time. This whole zone's going to be a big stubborn area of resistance. So call it 450 to 453. It would be crazy, but 457 could be as high as SPY goes. I don't think it's going to get that high, but that's another key level, 457. I doubt we see 460 anytime soon. So that's the SPY. Be very careful, expecting just a kind of like a chop shop grind and then finding some resistance and maybe we sell off. That's a lot of prediction, but it's just something to potentially think about as we go forward in the upcoming week. I also want to break down Bitcoin /BTC. Bitcoin could get a little bit of a kickback rally, probably up to about 41K. I did actually take a position on Ethereum. I believe it's ETH, right? Ethereum, I did grab this dip on Ethereum, looking for a little bit of resistance on Ethereum, maybe at about that 3,000 area, maybe as low as like 29K. But I did grab this dip over here on Ethereum, looking for maybe about a 10% bounce on Ethereum. So keep an eye out for a short-term kickback rally, but I do expect that it probably would reject. So not going to get married to this position, expecting a rejection. Briefly, I want to break down the VIX, the Volatility and Fear Index. And VIX got a nice good move. 37.20 was my resistance for the VIX. Went a little bit higher. VIX sometimes likes to spike some resistance levels a little bit. But as usual, the VIX kind of fades back down and reverts to the mean. I do expect the VIX, because I am expecting a little bit of a push up in the S&P. Of course, any of this can be reevaluated at Weenie Trades Live. But I am expecting a zigzag on lower, but I am expecting the VIX to stay above this 20 support area. So VIX expecting a chop shop grind lower based off this pattern, but I am expecting it to stay above 20. So how can you capitalize off of that? Well, actually, if the VIX is starting to get a little bit oversold and the market's starting to pump, you can actually sell VIX put credit spreads. Sell the 22 strike puts, buy the 20 strike puts. And that's like a nice good $2 wide vertical. So we can go over here to sell vertical 22 by 20. Look at that. You can get about $45 credit. Maybe you can go for a little bit more, but you can get a max profit of 50. You're losing 150, but there's a high probability that you can make that 50. And if you just want to make a little bit more, you just sell a little bit more. Look at this. Okay, risking 450 to make 150, but there's a high probability that you're going to make the 150. So a cool little potential VIX trade setup. Again, none of this is financial advice. I'm not telling you which options to buy or which options to sell. I'm just here to give some good trade ideas. So that's the VIX. Let's check out IWM over here. IWM is the key candidate to short. IWM relative weakness actually made a lower low on Friday and jabbed back higher. And if you're watching Weenie Trades live, I trailed down my stop on that put option, tagged out the put option, boom, now I'm long mostly. So basically what I'm saying is my deltas went from negative to 0 to positive deltas again. So I have slight positive deltas. Let's see if we can get a nice good rally in the IWM just so I could short it again. So letting the IWM maybe roll up, 207 to 210 area is the stone cold short for the IWM. Can pick up some multi-month puts, put spreads, bear call credit spreads, whatever it may be. But the IWM, one of the weaker names. There's not a lot of strong stocks in the IWM. If GameStop's in the IWM, I'm going to want to probably be shorting the IWM. But close the GameStop shorts, bear call credit spreads. So now let's see if GameStop can rally. GameStop, if it's pushing into 130, that's a stone cold short. Grab some in-out put debit spreads and ride those puppies when GameStop likely goes back into, sub $100 a share again. So that is the IWM and GameStop. Let's get into some individual stocks. Tesla reported earnings, good report, stock sells off. And boy, Tesla really just had a nasty, nasty downtrend after that report, selling off. The next morning gets oversold, and there's your 800 saying, hey, you can probably get Tesla for 800. Hey, congratulations for those that bought at 800. Hey, you're up, 6% on those shares. So that's Tesla. You saw me on Friday. I was trying to get the order ready to go on the Tesla at that point, at that 800 as we spiked it and then started to jab higher. But sometimes I was a little bit slow. So really, you got to make sure that you have your order ready to go if you're going to be day trading. Otherwise, you got to go with the slower type swing trades. But Tesla looks like it can break above this 858 and maybe start to test some of these upper resistances. Maybe it pushes back above 900 again. Maybe it can even get as high as like 925. But I wouldn't expect Tesla to get much higher than 950 anytime soon. So these are our key resistance areas for this upcoming week on Tesla. But that's if the market's rallying. Of course, if Tesla breaks that low, and by the way, this low, this 800 level was so critical because look, we had this prior structure right here. This is an important structure. Whenever you get an important structure like that and a breakout, that's going to be support, at least on the first go around. And so far it is support. So we'll see if Tesla can get a little bit of a rally, push up into that 900s. And if you want to, you could build a duration short position on Tesla because Tesla's likely to still probably roll on over and see that 700, maybe even as low as like 650 later in the year. But we'll see. That's just speculation at this point in time. Expected move for this week on Tesla is $69. That is hilarious. So you can expect Tesla to be $69 higher or $69 lower for the upcoming week. So that's Tesla. Next up we got is Apple. Apple, great report and great reaction. So Apple, nice good hammer candle closing right at the high of the day. We talked about that 170 level. There it is through at 170. If Apple's pushing up just a little bit more, it could be a little bit of an area to short. We might see something like a 176 Apple. Maybe we even spike this little pivot high, 177, 178. But either way, Apple, I would not be there's just as much reward as there is risk in Apple. So it's kind of like a 50-50, but still, Apple in an uptrend until it's not, I would say Apple's going to be one of the leaders. Apple's probably going to hold up the market. Expected move this week for Apple is just underneath $7. So if Apple's coming up into that 177 area, that could be an area to potentially short Apple. If Apple's selling off and it's coming $7 lower and we're down at 163, that could be a potential buy area. I don't know if I would buy Apple $7 lower. My buy price for Apple is down in this area, 130s, 120s. That's where I can get some really good value, but that would mean that the market would have to go through a little bit deeper of a correction. So that's Apple. Let's talk about Google. Google, just in between, underneath resistance, but above support. Google's going to be reporting this upcoming week on February 1st, which will be super cool to see. So Google, expected move, probably going to be pretty big, $158. I can't wait to trade Google after its earnings report. The options chain is going to be wicked. There's going to be some big price movements. But as long as the volume's there and the momentum's there, there's going to be a way to make money off of this guy. So Google, watch out for 27.74. But basically, I'm just going to be waiting till after the report to trade Google. Still like Google long term, still my top holding. Google, but I've definitely trimmed it as the market has started to crater a little bit. And I want to see if I can get just a little bit better of a deal. So that's Google. Next up we got is Netflix, NFLX. And Netflix, my butterfly expired worthless. So sad. Netflix just had to gap down and be relatively weak on Friday. Looks like it's pushing up, in the after hours. We'll see. But Netflix, there's a trade set up over that 394. And if you want early confirmation, 391.50, maybe 390. But Netflix, I still think that it can break out. It's just at that point in time, I had to make the best decision I could. And that was just to cut it. So Netflix, checking all these alerts, 394, and I still think Netflix can break that 410, maybe get up to 420 to 430. I would not expect Netflix to close this entire gap, though, at least anytime soon. So not going to get too giddy on Netflix, but I do think that there is quite a bit of margin in Netflix, 8 to 10% of margin to the upside on Netflix. Of course, if Netflix is coming underneath Friday's low, 373, then, that would mean Netflix is probably going to get clapped or just consolidate a little bit more. So keep an eye on Netflix. Next up we got is Lucid, LCID. And Lucid got clapped. And Lucid, put in a nice good a lower high pivot right at the breakdown cluster. So what do I mean by that? Well, look at this on Lucid. We have this nice good cluster over here. Move higher, cluster, 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 breakdown. Come back to that breakdown cluster. It's going to be some resistance. It was resistance. Boom. Lucid gets smacked. So Lucid's had a pretty decent few down days. It's probably going to get a kickback rally if the broad market gets a kickback rally. But if it's selling off maybe 1 or 2 more days, maybe it comes into this, this gap down at 2404, it could probably offer a short-term bounce. Maybe a bounce of like 5 to 6%. I wouldn't expect Lucid to really get above this 48 though, due to the severity of this sell-off. So Lucid, all-time highs might be that 64.86 for a very, very long time, if not forever. So still, it's relatively weak, so more bear bias on Lucid. Bounces are going to be a little bit weaker when the overall market's bouncing, and if the market's selling off, Lucid might sell off even harder. So just be careful on Lucid Motors. Great day trading stock, great liquidity intraday, but need to see a little bit more constructive things on the higher time frame before going bullish again. So that was Lucid. Next up we got is Riot, and the miners are going to get clapped. Miners are still pretty weak. Again, if Bitcoin gets that bounce that we talked about earlier in the video, then Riot will get this bounce. I do think that Riot could, it would be pretty crazy. Riot bouncing 40% from here, 36%. But it could if the market goes on a pretty wicked short squeeze. It can maybe take out this pivot high 1609, but I wouldn't expect Riot to get much higher than this gap. And this gap is right here at 1749. Still though, from this point, that's a 17% move. So just be careful, but that would be a potential area to go short on Riot and go back with the trend, which is a downtrend. So Riot, bearish underneath 1311, bearish if it starts to reject at 1730. If it can get above and hold above 1730, then hey, it has a chance to be good. So that is Riot. Next up we got is OVV. OVV, and this is going to track oil. Look at that. We're going sideways just a little bit. OVV, bullish above 40.50. Kind of bearish underneath 34.44, but even then, this might just correct through time. Again, this is going to track the price of oil. I closed my USO long on Friday and closed it at about 62. That was an option spread just underneath 100%. Nice, good move. And that's just buying in this cluster right over here, 5208. Ooh, nice good move, 20% on USO. If we briefly break down /CL, oil still climbing on higher. It might need to pull back short term, but I do expect it to go sideways in the medium term and then probably go still a little bit higher. I still think we could maybe see this $99 a barrel on oil. So that's all I have for today's video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Get excited for volatility on both sides Monday. Thanks for tuning in. See ya.